What is up, my frosty brethren? My name is Arctic, and today I'm bringing you guys a Gears of War 4 discussion video. This is part of my weekly series that I've been doing typically on Thursdays. This Thursday was a holiday, Thanksgiving, so happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving to everyone here in the States that celebrated it. I was one of them, which is why I did not post a video today, so got it coming in on Friday. Thing about today is going to be control schemes, which we'll talk about here in a second. I do want to mention before I get started that former Major League Gaming pro player Fallout has been recently hired at Black Tusk Studio. That is the studio developing Gears of War 4. Gears of War 4 was announced in spring of 2014. I always mention that at the beginning of my videos because people are still asking me 7 months out, is there a new Gears coming out? Man, I didn't hear anything about it. It's like, where have you guys been? If you're Gears heads, where you been? You ain't been on the forums. You probably don't even know where the new forums are at. Man. I don't know if you can call yourself a Gear. No, I'm just playing. Anyway, so Fallout has been added on that Black Tusk roster. He was, again, a former Major League Gaming pro player, buddy of mine. And I think you guys have some good representation there. I believe you can probably equate him to the Bravo of Black Tusk. Bravo was a former Major League Gaming coach-esque and a player for Halo. And I also mentioned one of my previous videos that probably see a lot of crossover between the strategies that 343 takes with hiring processes and other things, and some of the things that we're going to see with Black Tusk, because they're Microsoft-owned studios, and they're probably working very closely on these two IPs, sharing ideas and whatnot. So don't be surprised if we see more competitive Gears of War players over at Black Tusk. It's a very, very real and very likely possibility. Now, today's topic of discussion is control schemes. Now, for those of you guys that remember, I played alternate control scheme, and the reason that I did so is because it offered me more control. I was in more control of my movement abilities as a player. I believe it separated roadie running and taking cover from wall bouncing. So what would happen sometimes if you use default controls is you would end up roadie running sometimes or sticking to a wall when you didn't actually want to do that. And alternate control scheme offered you the ability to basically have control over when you wanted to do that and when you wanted to continue wall bouncing. So some of the most insane wall bounce players that you've ever seen, some videos, again, some default players are excellent, but a lot of players played on alternate. Some of the best played on alternate. So I thought I would mention that as one of my reasons. Now, in Judgment, we saw a streamlined control scheme. You either like it or you didn't like it, but I think the bad thing about Judgment was that they didn't actually offer a legacy control scheme for players that wanted to use that as an option. Now, I think where this kind of comes into play and where you guys are going to hear this discussion kind of go is, why haven't players been given the ability to play however they like with their control schemes? Why haven't they been able to remap control schemes on consoles? But if you look at PC players, they're given all this freedom over whatever the hell they want to map their control schemes to. That has been puzzling me for a long time. Talked to some people about it. No one seems to have a very sound answer from a designer standpoint on why that is and why that has been kept in place for so long. I think some answers have leaned towards, well, console players basically don't know what they're doing. The equivalent of they don't know what they're doing, or they would mess up the controls, or the variables there would be too overwhelming for them. And it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Other things is, again, game-breaking stuff, too many variables. Again, that doesn't make any sense because all of those variables are obviously set in place for PC players for games that are on multi-platforms titles. So none of those reasons I've heard make sense, and for the longest time it has puzzled me as to why console gamers have not been treated the same when it comes to control schemes. Now, for me, I used a Razer Onza and Razer Sabertooth, which let me remap my my roadie run and wall bouncing to the bumpers, or when I got the Sabertooth, the back pedals, basically similar to a SCUF controller that you guys see. That's basically approved in Major League Gaming stuff. So it's one of the reasons that I started using it, is because it was approved by the league as a peripheral that could be used. And that was kind of my workaround. Within the last 5 years or so, we've seen this very, very strong passionate movement from mostly from the Halo community that's kind of transcended and gone on to other games, but we've seen the strong movement for bumper jumper control schemes. And where this kind of comes into play with Gears is that when you're wall bouncing, you have to take your thumb off of the analog, which is basically where you're looking around so you can set up your next shot in order to do a wall bounce. So if you're wall bouncing like crazy, you're constantly a analog with your thumb, a analog. And so if you're playing a really good player, you're playing someone with a Sabertooth or an Onzo or a Scuff, they don't have to do that a analog. They just keep their thumb on the analog and they're pressing their index finger, their ring finger on the back button, and they're not moving. They're aiming at you while they're moving, and you're sitting there turning and doing all types of crazy stuff. But bumper jumper takes that away, right? Like, players are able to jump and use their movement options without taking their thumbs off of the analog stick while they're in the air, so they can aim and jump at the same time. Gears of War hasn't really thought about this from, at least Epic and Black Tusk haven't thought about this. I don't know if Black Tusk is thinking about it, but traditionally they have not thought about this option as an existing thing. It's been something that's been ethereal, like, it hasn't been real. So, I'm kind of wondering if, because of this bumper jumper movement, and because players, at least hardcore and competitive players for the most part, have been like, hey, I don't want to take my thumb off the analog because that actually puts me at a disadvantage. Can you give me something that works? And we haven't seen a control scheme that really does that. So I'm hoping with the next Gears of War, they will be thinking about that as an option. On top of that, I would love to see them say, hey, you know what? Let's start something new. And it's not really new, but let's do something different in console. Let's give the power to the player and say, hey, we think you're smart enough to program your buttons however you see fit and then play the game. We think you can do that. We're going to give the power to you. Fuck the control schemes. We're going to give the power to you. You can do whatever you want and then play the game and have fun. That is the ideal state that we need to get to as players, but it's far from that so far based on history of the last 10-15 years in console gaming. We have not been given that option. So I would love to see Black Tusk do that as the end-all be-all, but at the very least, I would like to see them think about, hey, maybe we should have a movement option control scheme that lets players keep their thumbs on the analog stick while they're actually utilizing our movement mechanics within the game, so that they can aim and move simultaneously and keep their their mojo going while they're in game, ripping it up on your killing sprees or whatever. So it's just something I want you guys to think about. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about control schemes. For some of you guys that aren't console exclusive, obviously I'm not. You guys know I play a lot of PC games as well. You know what I'm talking about. I would love to see your opinions as well. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I've actually put all my Gears of War 4 videos in a playlist, so you guys can view them all now. I also have video at the end to check out, which is my previous week's video. But if you enjoyed this one, please make sure to give it a like. I hope to see you guys commenting and obviously being a lot more active on more videos. But until the next time, I will catch you all later. Stay frosty. So you missed my previous Gears video, huh? Well, luckily for you, it's right there. Just click right there. Come on. What are you waiting on? Just click. Click it. It's right there for you. Come on. This is unnecessary.